In 2020, we had the first big lockdown. We were all stuck in our homes doing nothing except watching TV. Dai's house party was amazing. You were your fantastic, cheeky self, but something was going on behind the scenes that nobody knew about.
Yeah, in the lead up to that lockdown, I'd sort of been noticing a few symptoms of going to the bathroom and seeing a bit of blood and all that sort of carry on, which is something I'd had on and off for a while. And then I finally sort of was sent for a colonoscopy in April, and they discovered quite a sizable tumour in my bowel that pointed to there being more of it somewhere else. And just finding that, having a colonoscopy and being told you've got cancer was freaky enough. Then I had to scan the whole body, and then found out I had stage 4 colorectal cancer, or bowel cancer, as people know. I had a very big tumour in my bowel, and a series of tumours in my liver, and that sent me into a massive tailspin, because we had funding for this comedy show that I was shooting by myself because you couldn't see anyone. So my son was being a camera person, I was doing this, and then I had this whole other thing of, you've got stage 4 cancer. My biggest fear in life was cancer. I couldn't watch the first season of Breaking Bad because of the cancer storyline, even though I've never had cancer in my family. So that was so confronting to me. And then you immediately think doom and gloom. I'm like, well, how long do I have left? Am I going to see out this year? And thankfully there was a path to treat it. Right from finding out, after I did initial scans to figure out where everything was, I was in chemo sort of 3 to 4 weeks after finding out. Since then I've done 14 rounds of chemo, sort of. In the beginning I was doing it every 2 weeks for 3 months. I've had high dose radiation. I've also had another course of radiation, which was 25 days straight while taking a chemo pill. And the chemo I was doing gives you neuropathy, so I was wearing gloves to take milk out of the fridge. Any change in temperature felt like electric shocks. And,
oh, wow.
So ironically, the worst effects I've had have been from the treatment that has actually helped me get rid of a lot of it. So that's the catch-22 with cancer treatment. I've had these huge amount of chemo, radiation. I've had 6 major surgeries, or sort of 5 major surgeries. Then the other ones I'd call minor, but for someone who before this I hadn't had any surgery. So the minor ones I would have called major before, but not as major as taking bits out of your lungs. And I had about 30% of my liver removed, maybe a bit more. I had another small thing called an ablation on your liver, which is, so they put like a knitting needle into your stomach and zap it.
Lovely.
Had that removed, then I went back into chemotherapy, and then I had a bit of time off over summer, the summer of 2020 going into 2021, and then I had bowel surgery where I had quite a lot of my bowel removed, and I had to have an ileostomy bag, which was so confronting, waking up from a surgery and having this sort of knob that then had a bag on it that I had to change. And
I think you even came on the project when you had the bag.
Yeah.
And you did a 7 days tour. You've been on multiple television programs. You look so healthy. Nobody would know this was going on for you.
No.
Why do you want to talk about it right now?
It's something that I'm a private person. My wife and kids are private people, and when the initial diagnosis happened, there was just so much crying and holding each other in the middle of the night, and just the massive fear of the unknown and the heaviness of all the emotions, because I have young kids who I love to bits, and I want to see and help them grow into amazing human beings. I want to be next to my wife until we're old and all that. And you can start, even when you have small things, you start thinking how bad they are. And so I went, look, I just want to get through all this treatment, because they said, look, we've got a path to cure it. And so I thought I'll just do this as a private journey. Then I'd done all this, and then I found out that I got a scan and it was all clear in my liver, all clear in my bowel, but then I had cancer in my lungs, which was still bowel cancer. So I have bowel cancer, but it's only in my lungs and the lymphs against my windpipe. So then I had the conversation with my oncologist, which no one wants to have, which is, hey, so this is incurable now. Your cancer's incurable. We're now moving into what they sort of call palliative care, where it's sort of, I liken it to, I got a classic car right here, and I'm just trying to keep it on the road long enough until we can sort out a way to fix the rust.
Yeah.
And I've learnt so much in this journey, and now I've got past the raw pain and crying of it, that I'm an authentic person, and I do stand-up comedy, I do corporate talks. I was like, I have to be an authentic person. This is now such a big part of my life. I can't feel like I'm hiding it. I needed to just get it out there, and it's not like I sort of want to do a big publicity run on it. I just felt I need to be honest about where I'm at, purely because I could help someone. If I help one person, and there are people who might be watching this who have just been diagnosed and feel like they're on the edge of that cliff. And I've sort of been at the edge of that cliff for a long time, and I've learnt to deal with it. And now I'm living with cancer. That's what it's about for me. This is about living. I live every day, and I'm happy every day. I've made a conscious decision not to suffer. Cancer treatment is so hard. My love is with anyone who's going through that at the moment, as I know I've done pretty much most versions of treatment. Chemo is so hard. Surgery is hard. Radiation is hard, and I've chosen not to suffer. Sure, things hurt and they're very hard, but I can choose to not wallow in it, not suffer it, because I just want to. Everything I've discovered in life is a teacher, so I have to look at this as it being a teacher.
Do you ever look at the cancer and feel angry that you got it? Someone with so much to give?
So anger is something that was a huge emotion for me. Anger and fear sort of do go hand in hand. And initially I'd just be driving and I'd see people who might not be looking after themselves, smoking ciggies, just smashing some burgers, I'm like, what? Why me? Why me? And then I'm like, actually, I don't know anything about them. I don't know what ailments they're going through in their life and so forth, and realise that everyone has their own story. Everyone who has cancer has their own story. I would find myself comparing my cancer to other people's and going, oh no, they got through this, so I'll get through this. And it's like, no, you're all different. You're all different. And dealing with the anger was something I really had to work on. And now I don't hold any anger, and a lot of people go into cancer, and this is this is my story, so the way I do it is different to the way other people do it, and how they do it's cool. But I didn't identify with that, I'm in a fight against cancer, F cancer. I'm like, I actually send my cancer a lot of love. Like, I'm just trying to create a peaceful environment in my body. And love to me is I'm someone who loves a lot, and I'm sending love to all the cancer in my body, because I just hope that a healthy cell can become diseased. So why can't a diseased cell become healthy is where I'm trying to head. And I've been lucky enough to have this amazing team of health professionals, from surgeons. My oncologist is amazing. Every nurse I've had has just been so kind. Like, I'm sort of taking all of the Western medicine I can, and then all of this Eastern philosophy, which I have a passion for. And this Eastern side of things is really helping me remain calm and loving and peaceful. And just, as I said, living with cancer. I want to live every day. And this has been huge for me, because sometimes being aware of the clock makes you really appreciate the moment.
Can we talk about that at all? I mean,
Yeah.
It's such a difficult question to even ask, and I feel myself tearing up even wanting to ask you, but have you been given any indication of timing?
No, like, timing is not something these days that people seem to really deal with, because people live a lot longer with advanced cancer now. And, like, sure, things might be truncated for me. I might have a shorter amount of time than other people, but I am living that to the fullest. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm actually in a time where there are some amazing advancements being made, both in cancer treatment and cures for various things are cropping up, and that's still a long shot. But for me, I try not to think about that, which is so hard. The hardest thing has been, I've never had something in my life that I think about 24 hours a day. I woke up the other morning and for an hour I hadn't thought about it, and then I was brushing my teeth and I went, oh, I hadn't thought about cancer for an hour. That was huge.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what I thought about before this, because it's always there.
It's all consuming.
But then it's also always a reminder for me when I'm with my kids on the trampoline, when we're in the surf or something. It's a reminder to just be there and not search for these long things of perfection. Just grab that moment and go, watching these kids in the surf is perfection. Lying on the trampoline, looking up at a pahutakawa, hugging my family is perfection. Being out with my wife, having a shared moment is perfection. And really realising how beautiful this earth is and people are, it has made me really realise that. Obviously, I would rather not have gone through any of this and maybe found that path a different way, but it's something that has deeply affected me. And strangely, I'm actually the happiest and healthiest I've probably been in my life outside of cancer, because it has made me look at what I eat. Just before I was diagnosed, I got sober, so I've been sober for 3 odd years, which to me is a blessing, because the ups and downs of alcohol would have just made this journey a million times worse. And the support of friends and family has been something that has really got me through. Like, I'm going public with it now, but I've sort of privately shared this journey with a group of friends in a thread, and that the support of friends has been everything, the support of family, and knowing that people are in your corner. And when I'm in my darkest time, like I had some seriously dark moments in hospital, getting used to this ileostomy bag and stuff, where these amazing nurses just were with me all night. And I was thinking I wouldn't get through 2 days, let alone get to a point where I could have it reversed and get sort of semblance of normality back with my bowel. And support's been amazing, and now I want to sort of be a bit more open around it, because I want to be able to maybe help people and put together some talks that could help people, show people how my meditation has helped, my Qigong that I do.
Qigong is the slower version of Tai Chi.
Yeah, slow Tai Chi.
How is that even a thing? How?
Get slower.
I love it.
It's all about, you have all this energy in your body and trying to get it flowing nicely and peacefully. And
you seem to me like you've had a spiritual awakening, and that you've made peace with so many things in your life that maybe you would have come to, like you say, in a different way, but that this diagnosis is brought sharply into focus. Have you made peace with death?
Yeah, I think it was something I actually did before all of this, was meditating on your own death. Sounds quite dark, but it's something everyone should do, because it's, life is, I think it was Johnny Knoxville actually said that life is this weird cheat where you're born to want to live forever, but the only guarantee is you won't. It's this sort of idea that it is ephemeral. We're just here for a fleeting, even if you live a really long life, it's a fleeting moment in the time of the universe. And it wasn't sort of, I suppose, where I began to come to peace with everything was the idea of fairness. Like, everyone I feel who gets cancer naturally goes, this is unfair.
Yeah.
This is unfair. And then I came to this realization that fairness is just a word that's created by humans, and the universe doesn't have fair and unfair. It has events. And how you respond to the event defines you, not the event. Cancer doesn't define me. How I respond to it defines me. And my love and my skill is bringing happiness to people and making people laugh. And that's what I want to do. I'm in a point now where I did chemotherapy up to Christmas to knock back. I've got about 10 tumours in my lungs that I've suppressed a bit. They're still there. I've done a massive amount of radiation to sort of try and get rid of the one on my lymphs, which seems to have done its job. And now I've got 4 months with nothing, which is huge. I've got a couple of TV projects I'm working on. I've got live gigs booked. I'm so amped about that time. To me, 4 months seems huge. A lot of people might not think it's huge. Then I'll do some scans in sort of mid-May and see where I'm at. But I'm going to enjoy this time now. Yeah. So I am completely at peace with the outcome, because it'll all work out. It'll all work out. For good or bad, it will work out. And looking at things, I think for me, humans can tend to the pessimistic. Yeah. But sometimes if I'm feeling pessimistic or I'm feeling really heavy, I actually just sit there and go, what if it all works out? Because we don't often say that to ourselves.
Amazing. What a revelation.
We all go, oh, what if what if this happens and it all goes bad? We don't actually go, hey, what if it actually all works out?
I feel like this cancer couldn't have happened to a better person in that you are so incredibly positive, and what you're saying to me is inspiring me. You're talking about living, be here now, live for the moment, enjoy what's around you. These are lessons that we should all learn in our everyday lives, everybody across the board.
So I've always erred on optimism, and I am positive, but by no means to anyone who's watching this think I haven't had deeply negative times, deeply negative emotions, and I think you've got to actually be a bit careful of toxic positivity, I suppose I'd call it. Like,
that's good, yeah.
Because there are people who are dealing with heavy negative emotions, and you can't undermine those emotions. I have them, I still have them, but they're just emotions. They come and they go. It's that thing of, you're the ocean, that's a wave. You've just got to let it go through.
Yeah.
And happiness goes, sadness goes, anxiety comes and it goes. These things are going to be there. They're going to come back. So just ride it out. And if you need to cry for 2 days, don't feel bad about crying for 2 days. If you're angry, don't feel bad about being angry. Just remind yourself you are angry. You're not anger. You are just experiencing anger. And for me, it's the only way I can deal with these things. I was lucky enough. When I was 18, I was in Japan with my dad, who was doing a show, and one of the actors was a Buddhist, and she took me to a temple and I learned Zazen meditation, and it gave me this hunger and this interest into Eastern philosophy and Eastern religion. Then I got on the piss for 15 years and toured the world, telling gags and making TV that I loved doing, and then I started going back down the sort of spiritual path, and it was just in time for this to happen, and this has sort of deepened my spirituality. And I suppose I try and focus on these things that I can control, because I can't do chemotherapy for myself. That's something I put in the hands of my medical providers, but I can do meditation, which lowers stress. Stress is scientifically shown to increase cancer growth and stuff. So if I can complement the medical treatment I'm given by trying to eat as well as I can, which also then you can't beat yourself up about, because when I do chemo, it's like a massive hangover. So all I crave is a burger, is to hit a drive-through. But I'm not going to beat myself up for having a burger and some fries. But then when I'm out of chemo, I'm going to try and eat as best I can. And it's such a hard thing, because I really empathise with anyone out there who is living with cancer, who has just got a cancer diagnosis, because they don't really know where cancer comes from. They don't really know how to get rid of it. They know a lot more than they used to, but because of that, there's a lot of things out there on the internet, for good, for bad, and you can search and go down these huge rabbit holes, and then you actually end up beating yourself up. Rather than just going, I need to just do the best I can. And I read a book by this guy called Tim Baker. It's called Patting the Shark, I reckon. It's very confronting, so I wouldn't recommend reading it if you're early in a cancer diagnosis, but if you've sort of come to terms with things a bit more, and it's about living with cancer. And his thing is focus on your meds, which are meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. They're the 4 things you can control. Focus on them, and that's really helped me.
You talked about having friends and people support you. I think when somebody has a cancer diagnosis, that there's this inclination to go, oh, my uncle, Bob had it, and You know, is there any message that you would like to give to people who are about to approach you and give you their full life story? Is there anything that you would like to suggest?
It's so human because you go, I can join in this conversation because I have a removed experience with that. I think of wise movers not talking about your experience with cancer because sadly they don't often end well.
Yeah.
And even if they do end well, you don't know what type of cancer, what treatment they're undergoing. Just being supportive for their... Also something that I've found is saying what do you need can actually be unhelpful.
Yeah.
Just doing something, you know, like just not saying, can I cook you something, or can I... Just dropping around a little gift basket. Just coming around and go, hey, I'm taking your kids out. Yeah. You know, I'll take your kids to Rainbow's End, or I'll take your kids for a scooter. Just doing, because when people are in this fog of dealing with things, and be very mindful of people's partners, because to be honest, if you're in a very happy relationship and you love each other, that cancer diagnosis is diagnosed for two people.
Yeah.
This has been just as hard on my wife as it has been on me, because I've had the physical thing, but mentally it's the same. So partners need support too. And we're lucky that we share a very similar friend group, so everyone knows what's going on, and just doing something small for people, you know, shouting someone a massage and popping around to look after the kids while they go and have a massage. Those sorts of things. Like, I've had mates just being able to take me to chemotherapy and drop me home, and the laughs I've had in the car with my mates going there honestly fill me up to go in. Yeah. And don't be scared to talk to people about it. Don't be scared. Like, it's not... If you're coming from a happy, honest place to help someone, don't be scared of talking about it, because this person is scared. Yeah. And I've never been more scared in my life, and I still will go for a walk and just be scared and crying. And I remember when I was first diagnosed, I went for a walk, and I've never seen brighter colours. The sky was the bluest I've ever seen it. The trees were so green, and it was like, wow, it felt like I'd just been put on this earth, and I was like, oh, everything's so full on. And then I found myself crying to a Goo Goo Dolls song. Like, that's how weird this is. Like, you know, I don't want the world to see me. And I'm like crying, walking through the park, and I'm like, I can't stand the Goo Goo Dolls. How's this even in my headphones? It just puts you in the weirdest situations.
If there's one wish that you had for your life, like your legacy, what is the one thing that you want?
Well, I mean, it's... This weird thing comes up when you've got a heavy cancer diagnosis, because I'm like, I look good, I feel good, how long is this going to be like this? I've got this bucket list of things, you know, I love Japan, it's like a second home. I want to take my kids to Japan, I want to take to Hawaii. And then I suddenly went, actually, I don't need every moment to be exciting. I just want to be a good dad. I'd want to be the boring dad who does put downs, which I love, putting my kids to bed, just sitting in a paddling pool with them, having a yummy lunch with them, just the day-to-day, walking to school with them, picking them up, experiencing the rugby games, just being there. So they go, my dad's a good dad. It's not all about excitement. It's not about... Sure, I do. I mean, ideally, I would like to taken to Japan, but it's the things of like, this has robbed me of so much in terms of money and time. I've been blessed to have health insurance, which has meant so much in terms of the way my treatment's gone, the timeline of my treatment, having some income protection to just cover the basics. That's been amazing. But it still left me pretty broke. So it's not like, hey, I'll just chuck everyone on a plane and go to Japan. And also the sort of confluence of the pandemic at the same time as travel so expensive and yada, yada, yada. So I was like, actually, Piha's sort of my real spiritual home. So we go out to Piha a lot and surf. And it's just being there, I suppose, is what I want to do, and I try and spend as much time with friends and family as I can. And with support from friends and family, I think there can be there's definitely a moment early in a diagnosis where people want to hide away, and sure, that could be cool for a moment. But I think it's really important for people to reach out. I've reached out to strangers who have been going through it. I've met people in hospital and I've talked to them, and I hope I've been a support to them because they've been a support to me. So don't be scared to reach out. There's amazing, at the Cancer Society, there are amazing therapists who can help you, your partner, your kids. There are amazing techniques you can use, like talking to kids about this sort of thing is hard. Kids deal in small timelines, so for me it's, hey, we're going to have a great Christmas. I'm doing chemo up till Christmas, we're going to have a great Christmas. Summer, I've got no scans till May, we can go do this and this. And
Do your kids know what's going on?
Yeah, my kids know.
How did you talk to them about it?
We talked to them about it in terms of what I have and what I'm immediately doing. It's pointless speculating. It's pointless telling them about sort of time frames and things like that, because I don't know that. My oncologist doesn't know that. No doctor knows what my time frame is, so it's stupid to talk to kids about that and freak them out. It's about, I've got this, we're trying to get rid of this. Doing surgery to get rid of this surgery worked. Unfortunately, it's come back here, got to do a bit of this to zap this and zap that. And this is why I mentioned before that I've mentioned that I'm a private person, and this is not something I want to do a lot of sort of a publicity run on, like I'm doing a show. It's just, I love and I trust you, Jackie, and all the crew at the project, and I just wanted to be open so I could help people. But then I do want people to be very mindful of my family, and if you have any friends or relatives who are going through cancer, be really mindful of their families. Don't go up and talk to people's kids about it, because that can happen and you can really scare kids. And I'm living with cancer. I'm living and I'm happy, and I'm an involved part of my family. So I love that. I love today. I'm going to love tomorrow. Who knows what the future's going to bring, but I'm going to face it head on. There's no point in hiding. You can't hide from the inevitable, so just face it, and hopefully face it with a smile.
When you get a cancer diagnosis like that, what's the first thing that goes through your mind?
Well, this was almost more surreal, because I'd gone into Auckland Public Hospital during the beginning of the pandemic. So this is when you're washing the outside of your bread. This is when people are going to the supermarket in gloves, and I gotten fancy dressed to go to the supermarket. So I was going to this is when everyone was at mass alert. Basically, the whole hospital's in half hazmat suits. No one's in there. I went in, everyone, went into the colonoscopy ward. Usually it'd be packed. Nurses, everyone's sitting down waiting for me because, everything's been sort of put on hold. So I had it. And then when you have a colonoscopy, you have, I had a drug called midazolam, which is sort of a...
Bedazzles you?
Yeah, midazzles you. You're sort of groggy, it's a bit of an amnesiac. So they're telling me, and it's information's going in, but the processing part of your body's not.
Can you remember what they said to you?
I can just remember them showing me a picture of the tumour and me sort of, that's not good. And then them sort of saying we think around 10 to 15 centimetres and that's not good. And then just holding it together, thanking the colonoscopy guy and sort of walking out and then ringing my wife to pick me up and just crying, saying I've got cancer. And when you get told that that's not a diagnosis, I just got told I had cancer. So then it's like, but it was, hey, you need to get scans on the rest of this. And then I'm on the phone to specialists in the afternoon. Immediately.
Yeah.
It was, and getting that diagnosis and just crying. I remember my kids are in the back of the car because, it's pandemic time, so you travel everywhere as a group, and just being picked up and just shaking and just felt like I'd been hit by it, which I had been, hit by a Mack truck. And I remember just walking up to the dairy to get a chocolate bar and just crying. I couldn't stop crying. The fear. And that's still in me.
Yeah.
I can still feel that fear in my stomach and that.
What is the fear? Is it the fear of not being here, the fear of pain?
It's the fear of not being here for other people, to help other people, not being here to help. Because not being here doesn't impact me, it impacts other people. And I have so much to give. I have a boy who I want to raise into a good man. I want to help give him the skills and compassion, which he has. And I know both my kids. I know who they'll be when they're adults, and they'll be amazing people. I want to be a good role model for my daughter. So I suppose the fear is selfish. The fear is selfish. Yeah. And what helped me deal with that was actually trying to get rid of ego, because everything's ego. It's, I want to be there. It's about me being there. But then actually when I was putting everything back into, because everything sort of fell out, all my emotions fell out, everything fell out of me, and then I was trying to repack myself. And when I was repacking myself, I was sort of, I've just got to each day, each minute. Do each day, each minute. And the whole philosophy behind Eastern religion and that is what has now become almost a bit of a twee phrase is mindfulness. It's the easiest thing to say, and it's the hardest thing to do, to just be there. And breathing techniques have helped me massively. One quick technique, if people need to try anything, is if you just try and think what your next thought is, that massively slows down your mind. And because I would be spiraling, you'd spiral, and oh no, what, even going into surgery, what if it goes wrong? Da, 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 da. And then I went, actually, just think of your next thought. Try and think, what's my next thought? And then when you try and do that, you sort of chuck a spanner into the spiral and it stops everything. And so that and a sort of simple breathing thing of like breathing in deeply and then an extra little breath, like that I found was a massive way of releasing anxiety.
Oh, good.
So I'd do that 6 or 7 times, and also not chasing books and not chasing online things and chasing podcasts. I just actually went, I have all the knowledge I need to be human inside me. It's hardwired inside me. Just look to yourself. Just turn everything off and sit. Don't meditate, just sit with yourself and see what rises up. And if anything, this has made me a better person, and I'd love to, through my humour, through my live stand-up, my corporate talks, through, who knows, a TV show, help people and share my experience. And I find by helping other people, I sort of help myself in a way. Yeah. Helping other people makes you feel a lot better. And by gosh, if you look at the stats, you can look around and there's a lot of people who are going through some pretty heavy cancer diagnosis, and you might not know. I'd be testament to that. A lot of people I tell I don't know. And this is another reason why I had to get it out, is I've been living with this for 3 years. I've become desensitized to it. I bumped into a friend I hadn't seen for 10, 15 years. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, I've got stage 4 cancer. They just start crying.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, sorry. And I'm
at peace with it, bro. It's fine.
It's all good, man. So, hey, how about that cricket the other night? And they're just like bawling, trying to process this.
Yeah.
Because also, there's so much fear around cancer from TV. You look at what I thought chemotherapy was. Everyone's bald. Everyone's barely hanging on. I'm in chemo. Sure, different types of chemo have different effects. A lot of people do lose their hair on certain types of chemo. I got my hair thinned, but I didn't lose it. Yeah. And I visually didn't look that different. A lot of people who I sit with in chemo, you wouldn't know. So you don't know what people are going through. And if you put that lens on society, I think you bring a lot of empathy.
Have any of your comedian friends been good at adding a bit of humour, or have they been a bit bung?
I've been very open with it amongst, because when I say industry, everyone's sort of mates. Most people are mates because we all gig together. Most people know, and they've been great. And it's not like they've brought humour not in terms of joking about it. I mean, a couple of close friends joke about it, and I find that quite funny. But more in terms of just being light. And it's like if you've got someone dealing with a heavy cancer diagnosis, don't be all bloody doom and gloom around them. They're living now.
You're here now.
Have some fun with them. Don't feel... I think what I found as a comedian is the worst feeling you can get when you're on stage is if you're doing badly and the audience starts feeling sorry for you. That's the worst situation you can be in a comedian.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me, because that's not helping you and it's not helping me. This is my lot, and I am dealing with it for better or worse. And let's have a good time. I'm just blessed with the surgeons and the help that they've brought to me. And I thank anyone in the medical profession who gets up every day and goes in and works to help people. The nurses in chemo, being able to have a laugh with them, then bringing me a slice round and a cup of tea. When people are in their hardest and most scared, these people are going to work and they're helping them. And that's when I see anything about support and pay for people like health professionals, nurses, teachers. I'm like, yes, please give these people
them
more money,
everything,
because
yeah.
they, in the middle of the night with me, well, my like ileostomy bags are exploding and I'm just crying, and it's like my 10th wedding anniversary and I'm in a hospital, and it's like these people bring so much empathy for me. I remember this lovely nurse, she was a South African woman, slightly older than me, and she helped me all night and then just walked me down to be picked up 2 days later to the car park and gave me a hug. And that sort of empathy is amazing. And that, it's those showing of love. And I always made sure I was as kind and as helpful as I could be to them, because it definitely shows you get what you give. And even though you can be scared as going into a hospital, don't let that fear turn into snapping and being angry with nurses. Just they're doing their bloody best.
Yeah, they're amazing.
So show them some love.
Yeah.